she's got a 3-month-old asleep on her, so we're not going to take her off mute. But she can answer questions in the chat if you have them. But she's got a 3-month-old, and she's wondering tips on getting the baby to nap and sleep longer than one sleep cycle in the crib. She has blackout curtains, a noise machine, and uses the Huckleberry app for wake windows and a pacifier. She said very recently started sleeping 3 to 5 hour stretches in the crib at night after being rocked or nursed to sleep. Sometimes still co-sleeps. Usually only does the first nap of the day in the crib for 30 minutes and has a couple of 45 to 1 hour naps. Most other naps are baby wearing or being held in a chair in the bedroom by her parents. And then she also wanted to add that she's using the Love to Dream swaddle, that the baby absolutely loves sucking his hands. So she's wondering when she should either unswaddle or take one arm out, and will he be able to self-soothe that way yet?
Yes. So people don't know this, and for some reason it's not widely shared, but the AAP does recommend getting out of a swaddle by about 8 weeks. And that's for a whole number of reasons. It's hard because some babies have such strong moral reflexes still at that point. So they're waking themselves up like this. In those cases, I usually recommend like a Merlin, the Magic Sleep Suit, or a Zippity Zip or something like that. But
is a Zippity Zip like a sleep sack or?
Yeah, so it's like the starfish one. So their hands aren't actually out. But I would say, so Sarah has the Merlin. So I would
She says, I have the Merlin.
Yeah, I would actually give that a try. Because it's I use it as a transitional piece between the swaddle and a sleep sack. A lot of times moving just straight to a sleep sack is really jarring. I don't like to keep babies in the Merlin for too long because it can become its own sleep crutch. Where the baby's like dependent on it, or it can also start to disrupt sleep because babies often like to sleep on their side or their bellies, and when they're in the Merlin they can't do that. So I usually transition out of the Merlin sometime between 5 and 6 months, but it's a great piece for a 3-month-old to try and get them out of the swaddle, and it gives them the ability to access their hands for self-soothing. The bad news about 3 months is that napping situation is very common. And how many weeks old is the baby? 12 weeks. Okay, so freshly. So yeah, at this point, there's not much we can do at 12, 13 weeks. When you get closer to 15, 16, 17 weeks, that's when we can start to try to work on naps a little bit more, as far as like the crib hour that I was describing. But at 12, 13 weeks, you're still kind of in that situation where it's normal to catnap. It's very normal because, as I said, daytime sleep consolidation happens last, and it can happen anytime between 3.5 and 6 months. So you're not quite at the point where it would even consolidate yet. Some babies are just naturally good sleepers and that happens, but what you're experiencing is very normal. I would definitely give the Merlin a try. And it's great that you're using wake windows. What you might want to try and do is play around with the wake windows. If you feel like the baby is too tired with that wake window, because sometimes the wake windows in that app are a little too long, then I would try and get the baby down a little bit sooner and see if that makes a difference. Similarly, you may try a little bit longer of a wake time. It just depends. That's where the individualization of sleep,
trial and error.
Yeah, it's funny because, and then there's the kids that have like a 5-minute span. If you miss that 5-minute window of getting them down, forget it, the nap is toast. But give the Merlin a try for sure. Oh,
hi, Sarah.
Yeah, he's been sleeping on me for a while, so he probably should longer. So with the wake windows, I definitely notice he is a baby that if you don't catch him in those 5 minutes, he fights sleep until he is very worn out and screams in your face.
Yeah.
So I try to pay attention to like his cues, but it's just very hard to catch.
Yeah, and a lot of times cues are, by the time they're showing cues, it's almost too late. So that makes it even trickier. I mean, you're still at that age looking at anywhere from 60 to 90 minutes, in my opinion, max.
Right. I think
time.
And then is it normal for the first one? Like when he wakes up, I feel like he goes back to sleep. He wants to sleep for his first nap very quickly. Like it could be 45, 50, 55 minutes.
Yeah. And probably what I would say in that case is that eventually he'll just end up sleeping later because it sounds kind of like a split night situation, but we don't address that sort of thing until they're closer to 4 or 5 months.
Okay.
But yeah, I mean, for now it's completely fine.
Okay.